Hi everyone. I'm Paul, and thanks for joining us today. Apologies for starting a little bit later than advertised. We had some technical glitches, which is quite common with these things. So welcome to this conversation. I work with dads, and my passion is in helping them kind of reignite a bit of passion in themselves, get some energy back in themselves, refocus a little bit on themselves to improve their health, improve their energy, and just sort of be the leader that they really want to be for their kids. And I have these conversations with dads to kind of to speak to them about how they manage their energy and their focus and their nutrition and so on, whilst running businesses, juggling lots of important work and managing family. So today I'm joined by Matt. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I'm Matt Priest, accountant at Forrester Boyd, chartered accountants. I'm one of the partners there. We've got offices in Lincolnshire and Humber. I'm based in Scunthorpe, and I sort of specialise in really helping business owners to sort of, I suppose, align the business goals with their own personal goals and doing all the tax planning surrounding that, really. So yeah, real focus on owner managed businesses and whatever their goals may be. You know, sometimes it's growth, sometimes it's a bit more of a work-life balance, sometimes it's thinking about exit. So yeah, it's just really aligning the business goals with the owner's goals, and doing all the tax planning and the support and advice around that, really.
Yeah, awesome. That's a really valuable service as well, isn't it? Because people in business, especially when you're considering like an exit, you don't necessarily plan in all aspects of life around it, do you? So it's you must have some interesting conversations.
Yeah. I mean, on the subject of exit, you'd be surprised how many don't really have an exit plan. So it's sort of part of that is helping with that and having the conversation about exit. Exit, I think, should always be in people's minds, no matter how old or young you are. That's the long term plan, really. So what is that? What does that plan look like for you? So yeah.
Yeah, no, cool. Well, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for your time. I know it's a valuable resource. So these conversations, like I said, are kind of about I like to talk to dads about how they manage their energy and their nutrition and their health. And I know, having little conversations with you in the past, that you're kind of proactive in managing things. So I guess to start us off, is there any sort of area that you've ever deliberately worked on in terms of managing your health and your and nutrition and energy and so on, or any areas you struggle with particularly that you've kind of had to do a bit of work on?
I suppose I've been lucky in that I've always liked exercising, really. So I've never particularly struggled with motivation on that. I think the time management, having kids, especially when they were younger, so they're 4 and 6 now, so still quite young, but particularly when they was younger and it sort of in the baby stage, it was difficult with the time management side of things. And I think before having my first kid, it was a case of, you've got more time than what you realise. So like, working longer wouldn't be an issue. I'd sort of take on more and get more done. But then when I first was born, it was a case of, well, yeah, I haven't really got that time anymore. So it's rebalancing everything. So my typical routine, sort of pre-kids, was gym early morning before work, and then get into the office, and then finishing whenever, really. Like I said, the time commitment really wasn't there to be just fitting all of that into, really, because I needed to be home and doing my sort of fatherly duties and husband duties as well in looking after the wife. So it was a real change. So I had to change things up really, and I started at that point going to the gym at lunchtime. So there's a gym not far from the office. So I thought, right, I'll go and get some sort of workout in, whether it's, you know, half an hour or whatever, just to break up the day and just keep on top of that side of things. And then I've got one kettlebell at home that I've used for years. Really, I bought in 2014, I think. So it's having its 10th birthday this year. But that's proved really useful. It's 124 kg kettlebell that I can fit in a workout whenever. And when the kids were little, that might have been, you know, 5 minutes if I had 5 minutes. So things had to change really slightly. I suppose I don't even know if I'm answering the question, or it's quite a long-winded story, really. But things had to change, and the time management became the priority, to try and manage my time to actively fit everything in. So to get everything done I needed to at work, to obviously have the time at home with my newborn baby, but to also fit in some time for myself to look after myself, really.
Yeah, yeah. This is one of the conversations I have with most people that I come across. Is time is the issue, isn't it? And like you said, you know, before you have kids, you've got tons of the stuff, and you fill it because, you know, you do. And if you're in business or you're pushing in your career, you fill it with work, and then when you have to make that transition, it's really difficult to transition out of that mindset and that habit. And your company, your people are all expecting you at a certain level. You know, you have to make an adjustment there as well. I find. So I
think on that, Paul, I think delegation became more important than ever, really, and trusting people and realizing that actually people can do stuff rather than holding on to things, myself. So it was a valuable lesson, which has helped me moving forward, really. But I had no. So before, like you said, when you're filling your time with work, you don't necessarily need to delegate, because you just think I'll just do that, or, you know, it's one of them where you think I can do that quicker myself, or not trust someone to do that. But actually, when having my first kid, I didn't have that luxury. I didn't have that luxury anymore, so I had to sort of like figure out from my own point of view how I could delegate and how I could still have that level of comfort that things were getting done right, and that trusting people. So different way of working, really, to be honest. But
I mean, it involves good communication, doesn't it? I think there's an element where you have to just be open and honest with yourself a little bit as well, and then with the people around you, just to say, look, things aren't going to be the same anymore, and so it's going to make an adjustment to all of us, pretty much. And I think, to your point, it's about that trust element, because yes, you will just hang on to jobs to yourself because you can do them, and you know you'll do them quickly and efficiently and to your liking. So it's about having the ability to sort of let go and say, actually, these are skilled people that I'm with, and they can do it, and maybe they'll do it better than me, you know. But giving them a chance, you know.
I'm pretty better than me, but but no, it's exactly that. And I don't know if it's like a professional thing, or like people do seem to struggle with that side of things, of trusting other people to do things. But I've found now that you need to, for both sides of it, really, for yourself, obviously, but also for the other people in your team, to give them them opportunities and to give them that trust as well, because trust is quite a big thing for them to feel trusted. So, you know, by giving them challenging tasks, it's giving them that trust and giving them a bit of a boost.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it empowers them as well, doesn't it? And gives them, a bit of ownership of those, perceived more important tasks as well. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an awesome adjustment to have to make, isn't it? Because we're talking about work here, but also there's adjustments at home in terms of the home setup, all the routines that you normally had, who's taking care of this bit and that bit, and then there's moments where, the shit hits the fan and you've just got to be there to step up and step in. Or, metaphorically and literally, you might with exploding nappies and things. So there's a lot to go. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to juggle. There's a lot to kind of process. And I think so you have to be quite realistic.
And without doubt, it was a tough. Just our firstborn used to have like the witching hour. So every night I would get home would be his witching hour, where he basically just cried for an hour, no matter what you did. So at that point, the missus had him all day. So it's like, right, here you go. And I've just got to. Normally I'm getting home and I've got my feet up, whereas now I'm getting home and I've got a crying baby to walk around with for an hour. So it's quite an adjustment there.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, and it's unique to everyone as well, isn't it? Everyone's situation is unique. But yeah, it's a big adjustment. How did you find it with the second one coming along? So they're 2 years apart, aren't they? So I guess there were differences.
So 2 years apart. Well, the second one was born in COVID, so it had its pros and cons. Really. He's born 28th of April, so the start of COVID. So I think the big struggle was when you sort of plan having to, you think the first one's going to be in. We thought the eldest would be in nursery for a bit of the time. He's booked into nursery for like sort of 3 days a week. So we thought, the wife would be at home with one for 3 days. Thought you'd have help from like grandparents and things like that, but obviously with COVID, we had no one was allowed around the house. The nursery was shut for key workers. I think it was shut for everyone in the beginning, to be fair, when he was born. So the nursery was shut. So we've got no support, and a 2-year-old and a newborn at home constantly. And then I was working from home. So for me, I'd have probably rather been in the office, to be honest. But that did have its advantages and the sort of flexibility where, I didn't have to be sat at a desk 9 to 5 type of thing. You could be flexible, pick things up early, pick things up later, and to be fair, that flexibility sort of continued really, which one good thing that's come out of COVID. But so there were pros and cons, and I suppose so it was in the house all the time, which was difficult. None of us could really go out and have that sort of downtime. So that was a real difficult time, and I do remember sort of thinking like, this is going to be as tough as it gets, really. Yeah. And then obviously things start to open up a bit. The eldest starts to go back to nursery, and things just get a bit easier. But it was tough, and it was a tough adjustment. We'd sort of take it in turns on a night. So one of us would be dealing with the newborn, and the other one would get up with the eldest, who could get up anywhere between 5 and 6 o'clock, I suppose. Yeah. So you might have had a good night. You might have had sort of been in bed 10 till 5 one night, but then the next night up, however many times a newborn gets up, really. Yeah. So it's a difficult time. It's a difficult time, and then, like I say, you're balancing everything in. Again, I had my sort of kettlebell at home, so maybe a 10-minute break from work every day and just do a quick bit on my fitness just to keep a bit of sanity, a bit of looking after myself, which was again a bit of the benefit from working from home. Really, I don't do that in the office, so it's a benefit of working from home. But yeah, difficult time, but you know, it's the cards we were dealt, and I'm sure people had a more difficult time during that period as well.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there were plenty of people that, definitely had it worse. But yeah, it's interesting. I like the fact that you were, had that kettlebell at home and you were doing these little bursts of exercise, because there's some really good research now that's coming out about exercise snacking, and that is just having really short bursts of activity, even just 30 seconds to 60 seconds of increasing your heart rate and your breath rate is really beneficial physiologically, physically, and also it helps there's a sort of mental benefit, a psychological benefit, sort of get a bit of a refresh. It's sort of akin to standing up, isn't it, at work, or pacing at work, or taking a moment.
I think I've always liked that, and I don't know where I got it from, but I've always sort of thought, actually, I'll just do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, or 10 minutes. I think if I say to myself, I'll do 5 minutes, it's not, psychologically, it's like it's nothing. It's over and done with. But actually, like you said, it's quite a good bit of a refresh, really.
It's really beneficial.
So I've always liked doing that, and that's one reason I've liked the kettlebell, is the quick and efficient workout, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And I think, it's obviously it's different from having a sustained bout of exercise and training. It's not going to necessarily build loads of fitness or strength doing little tiny bursts, but it's certainly very, very good, psychologically and mentally, and to take that break. I'm a big believer in taking those small breaks, and I think workforces in general would benefit from encouraging that with their people, just to get up from, especially if we're in a desk chair at a computer, especially if it's a laptop and you're sort of over a screen, we tend to lean in, don't we? And shoulders come in, and we're not sitting well. So I think just sort of having literally a physical break from that and just sort of getting up, moving around just for a couple of minutes is highly beneficial. So it's interesting that that seems to just be your MO then. That's your type, is that you will just sort of take those moments and, get up and move.
That's I just sort of thought doing something is always, I think I've read that, doing something's better than doing nothing. So I've just sort of thought, well, if I can do 5 minutes, it's better than nothing. And then, but like, so when you do it a few times and you sort of feel, actually I can feel that, really. You start to think, it's better. It's certainly better than doing nothing. And I think, especially like them, when you're exhausted with having kids, that the psychology doing a little bit helped, rather than if I sort of said to myself, right, I'll have a 40-minute workout in the front room. It'd maybe been, I've got 40 minutes, I'll go to sleep. I think. I'll take that option if I've got 40 minutes to myself. But it's psychologically, to me, it was just like, actually, if I can do 5 minutes, I've done something. I can tick off that box. And quite often you might do more. You might do more than that, or do a couple of 5 minutes in the day. Because that's all I had as well. That's all, the only option. The gyms were closed, and that was sort of the equipment. I had a 24 kilogram kettlebell and an ab wheel, I think. And from the days of trying to get me six pack.
Well,
actually just that out of the garage, I think.
it's a good point as well. In that, if you have a lower expectation as well, so where a lot of people do tend to go wrong when it comes to exercising, if they're exercising for whatever reason, it might be you know, they've got a fat loss goal or a fitness goal or whatever it is. If you kind of say to yourself, right, that's it, I'm going to run every other day, I'm going to go to the gym every day, if you set your expectations high, then you're easily disappointed when you can't meet them, which is, you know, often the case because you've set a very high bar. So I think actually it's really, and you've just said then, you know, if you just sort of say to yourself, right, I'm going to do 5 minutes with the kettlebell, invariably, once you're in it, you'll do a bit more anyway because you're already in it. So I think it's a safer bet to kind of say, I'm going to do 2 or 3 little movement snacks in the day. It's going to be this much time, and then you'll probably end up doing more anyway. So, you know, I think you get a sort of motivational win from it as well, you know, because you've taken action, you've got the physical benefit, but also it's a pat on the back because you've actually done the thing as well, you know, and you're not letting yourself down.
It's a box ticked. Like I've done the exercise that day. That's that box ticked. Like you said, pat on the back.
Really.
And
then anything extra is a bonus, isn't it? If you go over, if you do 10 minutes, great. That's a massive bonus.
Yeah. And I think so. That's what I was sort of doing through COVID, and sometimes, you know, it just be exercising when it wasn't just the kettle. Obviously, a lot of body weight exercise you can do as well. So, might just bust out a set of whatever just to try and wake myself up a bit. sometimes really.
Yeah. So what when I work with my clients, I work on sort of the premise of 4 pillars of health. So I work on nutrition, which is obviously key because the food that we feed ourselves sort of denotes builds our body, and it denotes our energy and our output. I look at movement, and obviously that includes exercise and just walking and so on. I look at sleep, because that's a critical component, and those things certainly add up together. And then I kind of look at your mindset and that's in terms of like planning, organization, the way you communicate, how you kind of apportion your time and manage your time. So, you know, we've obviously touched on a few bits here. How do you sort of how do you approach your nutrition? Have you had any issues with that? Are there any sort of mega tips that you've picked up along the way that you think that have really sort of changed the game for you?
I've tried a lot. To be honest. I've probably tried most things going over the years. I've been a lot more settled, probably last 8 or 9 years really on what I've done. So, you know, in my 20s, I was trying probably every diet method going. I think what I have found more recently, I'd say probably the last 5 years, is on, and it's probably to do with how tired I've been from having kids, is how certain foods just make me feel, just tire me out, basically. Not eating the right stuff. So, you know, but back in the day, I found what worked well was sort of like the old fits your calorie counting, but just basically number of calories and then hitting my protein sort of target and thinking jobs are good and really, you know, I look all right doing that, and it's quite easy to maintain. It was for me quite easy to maintain that. But then when I've got older, maybe I've been more tired, I've realised that actually the quality of the food really does actually matter. Maybe not necessarily to how you look, but in terms of how you feel and the energy you've got by eating certain foods. I found for myself, you know, if I'm eating a processed lunch, say, or if I'm with a client and we might go to the pub for something to eat, you know, I'm tired after it. I don't quite have the same energy if I'm eating something that's a bit more nutritionally balanced or a bit better nutritionally. And what I have been enjoying sort of the last year or so, sort of a bit of fat-free Greek yogurt, and then just putting a load of sort of berries berries into that, and whatever fruits go in really into that. I found that to be quite nice for a start, which helps. Quite nice, and gets quite a few nutrients in it as well. The nutrition tip I would give out, and that's sort of been my experience with nutrition, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like you said, about depending on the kinds of things you eat as to how you feel afterwards. And I think, especially as we age, the metabolic processes in our body actually alter slightly. So, over a certain tipping point in terms of age, your body's starting to change a little bit, and in terms of you're losing a little bit of bone density, you're losing a little bit of muscle mass. And so metabolically, in terms of metabolism, meaning how the cells in your body handle energy exchange, that changes your body a little bit. And so when you eat, obviously, that's you're feeding that process as well. So the things that you actually put in, the way your body's digesting and transporting nutrients and what it's doing with them actually plays a big part. So, typically, like you said, if you're eating a massive meal that's full of carbs, generally people feel a little bit of lethargy a bit shortly afterwards, and then again, depending on how it's prepared and how it's cooked. So it's quite interesting that you said about yogurt and berries. It's an absolutely classic meal, and really what you're getting from that is you're getting a good quality protein, you're getting a nice serving of fat, and you're getting great fiber from the berries. So actually, in terms of your body digesting that and transporting the nutrients, you get good sustained energy over a longer period of time, and you get less of that kind of drop off of energy. So there is a really good choice. That's why you see a lot of people having that sort of thing for breakfast now, or bringing it in for a snack, because it's it's really beneficial. And a lot of the conversations I have with dads that I work with, the vast majority, if not all, are not eating enough protein to support their lean tissue in their body anyway, let alone to support extra training and extra load from going and lifting in the gym and so on. And actually, I find when people make that small adjustment and just increase their protein intake in whatever guise that is, their energy levels also change. They just get a better, longer sustained energy from doing so, because of the way it's digested in the body and transported in the body. So yeah, it's interesting that you've sort of seen that a little bit in play yourself,
Yeah. No, I've definitely developed over the years. Like I said, historically, it was a case of eating the right amount of calories and then getting the protein to sort of maintain or build that muscle. But then my conscious has become more about sort of. I think part of the switch is health as well. Obviously, it's no good having like a couple of packets of crisps, really, when you could be having something with a bit more nutrition in it, something that's going to help a bit more. So part of the switch was like to actively try and just have that bit of better balance when it comes to health, but then also just the way you feel when you start eating cleaner, I suppose. I don't know if
well, it makes a huge
people still sort of use that word.
Well, but it's true, when you look at foods that have typically been highly processed, they're stripped of some of their nutrients, they're stripped of some of the fiber, and therefore your body can actually digest them much quicker. Therefore, your blood sugar levels increase more quickly and then reduce quickly as well. So it's a very different experience. And like you said, as to your point of cleaner, it's sort of meaning, more whole foods essentially that are less kind of tampered with. And therefore, that's actually what our body's built to digest and run off. So everything's more efficient when you feed it and fuel it in that way.
And what I have found as well is that sort of eating cleaner over time just completely starving for certain foods. Whereas like before, if there was a packet of like Doritos in the house, that would have got eaten within a day or two. Really, there's only so much willpower I could have. Whereas now, I haven't got that urgency anymore. So like all my life, eating crisps was like my go-to weakness, if you like. So like I said, I used to say to my missus, like, don't buy any Doritos or Pringles because I just can't have them in the house without eating them. Whereas now I'm not bothered about him,
Yeah.
to be quite honest.
Yeah, and that's because your body, your digestive system and your body is just better fed, so you don't have that urge and that need. So yeah, really good point here from Richard. Thanks, Richard. So grazing, yeah, going for a bag of nuts is really positive for sure. And yeah, not just in terms of positive fats, but there's actually a reasonable amount of protein in nuts. But the main thing is that fiber content, which is the thing that's really ultimately going to feel more filling. So yeah, good nutrients, good quality fats, but also you get that extra fiber. And I always, when I'm talking to people about food, and you made the point a little earlier, Matt, about food quality, I think that's the way that we need to start thinking. So rather than worrying about removing things or get rid of things, I think we need to think about bringing in more things that are good quality and thinking about the quality of the foods on our plate and in our snacks. And what I like to do is sort of say to people, the harder a food to eat is, the better quality it is in terms of what it's able to deliver to you. So certainly fiber. So things like nuts and whole veggies and whole fruits, they're harder to eat, which is great because then when they get down into your digestive system, they're harder to extract the nutrients from and for your digestive system to manage and to process. But that then delivers the fiber to the lower part of our digestive system, which is where the gut microbiome is, and our immune health is based on the health of that area. So the more foods that are harder to eat that we consume, the better our health is, the more satisfied we are, the longer we're going to feel fuller, the better nutrients we're going to be taking in from those foods to feed and support our health. It's just win, 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 basically. So I think to your point, quality is the thing.
Yeah, and I suppose back in the day when I was sort of having my more, if it fits your macros approach and having the protein and then the calories, I'd have stayed away from certain things. So I didn't used to eat nuts because they were higher in calories, and I'd be thinking actually I could have something what I prefer to eat that's like got a better sort of calorie, that's not as calorie dense as that. So you stay away from some foods that actually you should be trying to eat, really.
Yes, yeah, and nuts get a bit of a bad rap, but if you look at a really hard nut, and again, another thing to my point of eating foods that are hard to eat, you don't actually absorb all of the calories that are in those nuts because your body can't actually get them out before they've gone through you. So, for example, things like almonds, sort of 20 to 30% roughly of the calories in them, you're not going to absorb because they're going to stay in your system, in the fiber that's going to come all the way out the other end. So, again, you still need to be mindful, obviously, but I think don't shy away from those foods. I think really, like you said yourself, go for that quality and not worry too much about your macros and your calories. Be mindful, be observant. Obviously, don't be crazy. If you eat 5,000 calories a day, you're gonna accumulate some body fat because you don't need that much. But more important really is looking at food quality, I'd say, and just trying to introduce more food quality and not worry too much about the other numbers so much. So yeah, that's really fascinating. I want to ask you as well then, so when it comes to your kind of health and your protecting your daily energy, have you got any kind of non-negotiables that you sort of always deliver on?
At the minute, things are changing a bit, so I try and so now the kids are a bit older, I am able to get up before them and like do a bit of exercise before them. Over the last couple of years, it's been steps, which have been a new thing for me, getting outside and just getting a walk in really every day. Not quite non-negotiable. There will be the odd day where it doesn't happen, but over the last couple of years now, my steps have averaged over 10,000 a day, which I'm quite pleased of and proud of, really. And that sort of, I probably started walking more consciously sort of 3 years ago, and just going for like a walk at lunchtime, just because I just started to enjoy it, really. And then the more I did it, the more I thought, yeah, no, this is a good form of exercise that I enjoy. I'd put a podcast on and enjoy listening to some of them, and I'm thinking, I'm gaining a bit of knowledge. I'm learning things. I'm getting some fresh air. I'm getting some steps in, and I'm sort of coming back to work if it's at lunchtime refreshed, or I'm coming, or if I'm going home and if I'm at home and I've gone out for a walk, I'm coming back refreshed. So that has been a real big thing for me over the last couple of years, really.
Yeah, I can't overstate how important walking is. I mean, it's an absolute game changer. Or to anyone I've ever worked with and spoken to that have either introduced it or upped it, it's net positive every time, pretty much. And there's no sort of barrier to doing it either. You don't need. It's not like a gym thing.
Yeah.
You don't need any special equipment. The risk of injury is fairly low. You can obviously still have little trips and slips and stuff, but risk of injury is low. You can just do it anywhere as well. You can go around the block, around the neighborhood. You can go up and down the corridors in your office. You can get, there's all sorts of options. So, I don't know of a time when it's ever really going to be a negative outcome from that. And like you said, you can pop a podcast on, you could take a call, you could, there's loads of sort of things you can do while you're doing that thing. One thing I think that a benefit that's sort of maybe overlooked as well, especially if stress is high for whatever reason, actually, like you said, even at home, going outside and having a walk for 5 minutes can just sort out a bit of stress as well, and you can just come back to a situation in a much better mind frame. I think that's a really good one to include.
I suppose I was sort of I never really looked at walking that positively before, because I was sort of more about sort of efficiency in doing things, and thought, if I can get to the gym and do just a quick 20-minute workout, that's going to do a lot more for me, and not really prioritizing the mental benefits of a walk.
Yeah,
really.
well,
when I started doing it.
Yeah, and actually over a day, in terms of your energy output, even if you go to the gym and go full intensity for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, that's only a small amount of your energy output for the whole day. And so you can just simply increase your energy output by adding in a couple of quick 10, 15-minute walks. And you're going to almost arguably get more in terms of your energy output from those walks than you are from a gym session, but without the extra added barriers to get to a gym, to get changed, to have the kit, to all that other stuff. So if someone that was coming in as a new person I was going to work with, and especially if they're carrying a lot of excess weight, going to the gym is probably net negative almost, in a way, especially if you're doing it for weight loss, because you end up outputting a load of energy, probably getting hungry, and then it's almost counterintuitive. You can almost get too hungry and eat more
absolutely,
than you need. So I kind of like to look at exercise and gym and lifting as doing it for the right reasons. So doing it for strength, doing it for mobility, doing it for fitness, doing it for your mental health, doing it to retain lean tissue, etc., etc. Or if it's sport specific, of course, doing it for your sport. Whereas if you're looking at it in terms of weight management or fat loss, actually better off finding a way to get your walks in instead, because that's going to be far more productive in that sense, I think. Yeah, that's a really good one. Are there any others? Like, I know you're a coffee man, so what's your coffee regime like?
It tends to be a black Americano, so there's no so sort of zero calories in it. Historically, when I started drinking black coffee, I like a flat white as well, but that's just flat white's just taste nice and do the job really. So I like a flat white, but generally it's black coffees. And I probably hold my hands up to say I drink too much of it, to be honest. But
well, your posts are famous, aren't they? So you're always there with usually a Costa, is it? Or
yeah.
You should be sponsored.
But again, it's part of like what I liked about going for a walk. Actually, grabbing a nice coffee as well, and thinking, well, actually, this is 0 calories. So I'm sort of calorie negative when I've still finished the walk. If I had a flat white, I'd sort of feel like I was defeating the object a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're still getting your movement and you're still getting outside, but I'm thinking that sort of I'll probably come back calorie positive to when I went out. So I quite like that of just going out and grabbing a nice coffee and walking. It's a nice coffee to have, like to get that decent podcast on, and just a bit of time for me.
Yeah, really. No, and it's really valuable, I think. And that brings us full circle to the start of the conversation where we were talking about time, and actually, when you're making that transition into having a family and raising kids, time suddenly is an incredibly valuable resource. And now, you're talking about being able to actually assign some time, which is valuable to you and your your mental health and your state.
And I think so, and I think as well, like if I did have 45 minutes or an hour at home, I would choose to go for a walk now rather than go to the gym. Sort of 8 or 9 times out of 10, just because there's a bit more. Even though I like the gym and like working out, there's a bit more of a mental. It's harder work. It's harder work for a start, and I've got to get changed. I've got to get to the gym. So if I've got an hour, I've got to get changed, get to the gym, work out, then come back, and it's like, actually, I'd rather just walk out the door, walk down to Costa, which is on sort of my walking route from home, grab a black coffee, have a walk around a lake. We've got a lake about 20 minutes from us, so you can walk to Costa, walk around the lake, come back within an hour, and I just prefer to do that 9 times out of 10, really.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, really good way to go about things, and that's highly beneficial. So cool. So we've rattled on a bit. I'm going to just jump in because I think we've got a question that's popped up here. So from Richard. So worrying about your body getting used to things. Yeah, I would say that not to worry about it. To be honest, your body doesn't necessarily. I wouldn't say it gets used to things in a sense that it then becomes less efficient or less useful to your body. The nutrients are in the food regardless. So eating the same thing repeatedly is not going to be a negative thing for sure, unless it's the option you're choosing is like mega packed with calories or void of nutrients or void of fiber. It's not negative to eat the same thing again. And I sometimes talk to people about this, and I sort of say, if you've ever had a dog or a cat, you feed them almost the same thing every single day, and they're perfectly healthy because it's got all of the required nutrients and everything they need in it. So you can sort of treat us the same as well. I think just because we're a more complicated animal, we like to have lots of variety, and we're easily seduced by pretty looking things as well, aren't we? So when we see something that looks fancy, we like to eat that a bit more. But yeah, there's definitely no problem with eating the same sort of things over and over again. Your body's still going to take the same nutrients and benefits from it.
That's good to know, because I suppose you can have up your sleeve quite a number of, like, you only need a few choices of like healthy, nutritionally packed, high protein things. If you've got a few of them up your sleeve that you can prepare easily, and have sort of rotate between 4 or 5 a couple of times a day, then you're on your way.
Yeah,
you're sort of quite a way there already, aren't you?
Variety variety is good, obviously, and you want to include as many different things as you can. But even if you're just saying every breakfast is going to be mostly the same, and a lot of lunches are going to be mostly the same, it still leaves you another whole meal of the day, and then the occasional change anyway. So these days, it's less for me. It's less about 5 a day It's more about including as many plant-sourced foods as possible in a week. So I saw there's the government are probably going to start pushing this soon, and the NHS soon, about eating 30 different plant sources a week. And if you think about, a muesli or a bag of mixed seeds, if you have a couple of servings of that in a week, then that's, it's not a massive number to attain. And I think that's probably the better way to think about things. So yes, have a repertoire of things that you ordinarily have, but then through some of those meals in the week, or maybe on a weekend when families tend to cook a bit more, maybe together, is just start to introduce different things. Look at seasonal vegetables. Look at bringing in different starchy carbs and different, rices and pulses and things like that. But yeah, certainly nothing wrong with having a good repertoire of things up your sleeve that you can just, pull out of the bag whenever you need, as long as, like you said, they're nutritionally dense and they've got, good level of protein and fiber in, then you're on the winner, really.
Yeah. What's anything else that's good for these plants then? Well, I don't picture myself eating many plants.
Yeah, well, you probably eat more than you think.
It, but
yeah, yeah, you probably eat more than you think. So, all of the kind of beans and peas, pulses, and all the legumes are all plant-based. Obviously, all the berries, all your fruits, and then obviously you've got your kind of root veggies, so potatoes, turnips, carrots, parsnips, swedes, all those sorts of things. And then when you start to look at grains, that they're obviously a plant as well. They all grow from a grain. So you've got various different whole grains. You've got, things like bulgur wheat and quinoa and rices and all these other things. And then you've got, when you look at things like pastas, you can opt for a whole grain version, or when you're looking at rice, go for a brown rice every now and again, or a wild rice. And then you're just introducing slightly different nutrients, a bit more fiber. Wild rice, brown rice have got more protein, for example, and you'll know from having eaten them probably, they've got a bit more of a bite to them. So that, like I said earlier, if you eat things that are a bit more difficult to eat, then that actually makes quite a big difference in terms of your digestive function as well. So you're probably eating a lot more plants than you actually think.
Yeah. Well, you said beans, so coffee beans, do they count?
That's a plant, yeah, and there are actually some nutrients. So you get fiber from coffee, bizarrely, not a lot, but you do get some. So yes, that counts.
So I got the green light to continue with that then.
Don't have 5 more cups a day though, and then say, well, Paul said I should have more. Awesome. Well, look, I'm conscious of time because we've gone sailing past 45 minutes. So it's been a fantastic conversation. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. If people want to get in touch with you, find out more about what you're up to, where's the best place for them to kind of find you?
Yeah, well, I suppose LinkedIn. So hopefully that sort of banner's coming across the bottom. But I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so I guess that's as good a starting point as any, really. There's also our sort of the Forester Boyd website to have a look at, which is www.forester Boyd Boyd.co.uk. But that's on my LinkedIn profile as well. So LinkedIn as good as anywhere.
Yeah, fab. And for anyone watching, I highly recommend connecting with Matt because his posts are always informative. His Tuesday chats on there and various pictures of him with coffees in all sorts of different places. So definitely worth linking up with Matt on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
cool. Well, thanks very much again.
Great to take part.
Cheers. Yeah, brilliant. Cool. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers, bye.